you want to just, yes.
Namaste to all. First of all, thanks to Luena ma'am and Uma ma'am for giving us the opportunity to give this presentation. Today I have taken the topic on Sankhya and Yoga philosophy. Our Bharatiya Shastras are broadly classified into two categories, Astika and Nastika. Astika has its root word asti from Sanskrit. Astika means that which accepts the authority of Vedas. And there are 6 systems of Astika philosophy. Those 6 systems are called as Shad Darshanas. And those are Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Yoga, Sankhya, Purva Mimamsa and Uttara Mimamsa. Nyaya is written by sage Gautama. Vaisheshika is given by sage Kannada. Yoga is written by Maharishi Patanjali. Sankhya is given by
Can you say sage Kannada? Kannada. In
Kannada.
English, when you write K-A-N-E-D-A, everybody will say Kannada, Kannada, like that. It's Kannada, like Krishna.
Kannada.
Kannada. Okay.
Kannada.
Only people who know Sanskrit will know to say Kannada. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kannada. Purva Mimamsa is written by sage Jaimini. Uttara Mimamsa by sage Badrayana or sage Vyasa. Purva Mimamsa and Uttara Mimamsa are said to be directly from Vedas or Upanishads. Overall, all the philosophies talks about Brahman, Jiva, the individual soul, and how we can overcome the suffering. So these are all the major focus in every philosophy. And also how one can attain moksha or liberation. Now let's move on to Sankhya philosophy. Sankhya is also called as Samkhya philosophy. Sankhya means knowledge. Samkhya means numbers, that which deals with tattvas, number of tattvas. And Sankhya is written by sage Kapila. And there is one authenticated text which has the whole of Sankhya, that is the Sankhya Karika. Sankhya Karika is written by Ishvara Krishna, and it has 72 verses in it. And Sankhya and Yoga have many similarities. Yoga accepts many authenticities from Sankhya. Both talks about Purusha and Prakriti. Purusha is the pure consciousness within everyone, and Prakriti is the principle of matter, that which is Achetana, our body and mind complex. And both the philosophies also talks about 3 gunas, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. And there are many similarities, and they talk about that which is manifested and that which is not manifested. And now we will see some sutras from Sankhya philosophy first. The first verse from the Sankhya is Dukkhatraya Abhigata Jignya. Can I share the screen? That Word document itself directly I will share. The screen is visible, ma'am. The first verse in Sankhya is Dukkhatraya Abhigata Jignyasa Tad Abhigatake Hetau Drishte Sa Apartha Chetna Ekanta Adyanta Abhavat. There Dukkha, it starts with Dukkhatraya. There are three kinds of Dukkham which Kapila is saying. Adhyatmika Dukkham, Adi Bhautika Dukkham, and Adi Devika Dukkham. Adi Bhautika, Adhyatmika Dukkham is the suffering which is created within ourselves. Adi Bhautika is that which is created by others. Adi Devika is the Dukkham which we get through natural calamities like COVID or a tsunami, like that. So how one can overcome from these sufferings is through Jignyasa. But Kapila says Jignyasa is one method, that is invisible means. Through that also one is not effectively able to overcome the suffering. So he is giving the alternative means of knowledge, the knowledge of manifested and unmanifested. So through that one can overcome the suffering and attain the state of moksha. The next thing is Moola Prakriti Avikritihi Mahat Adaya Prakriti Vikritayah Sapta Shodasa Kastu Vikaraha Na Prakriti Na Vikriti Purushaha. This sutra talks about 25 tattvas. Moola Prakriti. Prakriti is the origin, that which is not created by anything. It is the matter. And it creates the other tattvas like Mahat. Mahat is Buddhi. It creates Sapta, that is 7 tattvas. And from 7 tattvas are Pancha Tanmatras, Buddhi and Ahamkar. Shodasha Kastu, so other 16 tattvas are born out of it. Those are Panchabhutas, Pancha Jnanendriya, Pancha Karmendriya, like that. And Purusha is the consciousness which is independent, which is neither created and which also not produce anything. So overall there is 24 plus 1, that is Purusha is 25th tattva. So Kapila talks about this 25 tattvas in this verse. And in yoga also, Patanjali in one sutra, he mentions about that which is manifested and unmanifested. Unmanifested is Prakriti. He says about these tattvas. And one more sutra from Sankhya is Vedanam Parimanat Samanvayat Shaktitaha Pravrutescha Karana Karya Vibhagat Avibhagat Vaishwarupasya. Which means he is talking about the evolution of the universe. The evolution is happening through the tattvas, and it is cyclic and a sequential process. And also it is expanding and contracting. And it is having the karanam and the karya, which means the satkarya, which has the cause and effect principle. So he talks about the evolution. And also Sankhya talks about how we perceive. There are 3 kinds of perception: Pratyaksha, Anumana, and Agama. That is right knowledge, wrong knowledge, and through authenticated text one can perceive the knowledge. And the same thing in yoga also Patanjali is saying in one sutra. And so now let's move on to yoga philosophy and see a few sutras from it. And yoga philosophy by Maharishi Patanjali, it has 4 chapters: Samadhi Pada, Sadhana Pada, Vibhuti Pada, and Kaivalya Pada. So overall there are 195 sutras, and in some text there is one extra sutra which is 196 sutras mentioned. Now we see few sutras from Samadhi Pada. In first chapter, second sutra, Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Patanjali is saying what yoga is. He is giving the definition for yoga. Yoga means Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Chitta is the state of mind. Vrittis are the thought patterns. Nirodha means we have to regulate our mind. So Chitta Vrittis are to be regulated. Only if we can able to regulate the Chitta Vrittis, we will be in the state of yoga. So this only helps us to move towards the state of samadhi. In the next sutra, he is saying Tada Drashtuhu Swarupe Avasthanam. Which by doing the Chitta Vritti Nirodha, by regulating our mind, one can see our real Swarupam, Drashta. Patanjali is using Drashta also in place of Purusha. And 23rd Sutra from first chapter, Ishvara Pranidhanat, which means surrendering attitude towards Ishvara. In yoga philosophy, Patanjali talks about Ishvara. In Samkhya, there is no direct mention of Ishvara. Sankhya talks about multiple Purushas. Because we have varied gunas, there are multiple Purushas available. In yoga, Patanjali says we should have the surrendering attitude towards Ishvara. And he is also giving the quality for Vishesha Purusha. That is, Vishesha Purusha is free from kleshas, karma, and the results of karma. And next is 27th Sutra, Tasya Vachakaha Pranavaha. So we can connect with Ishvara Purusha through the Pranava Japa. And Samadhi Pada also talks about Sampranyata and Asampranyata Samadhi. And he is giving many other techniques which we can follow to regulate our mind. Next, we move on to Sadhana Pada. Sadhana Pada, the first sutra talks about Kriya Yoga. So there are three types of things which Patanjali is saying as Kriya Yoga. That is Tapas, Swadhyaya, and Ishvara Pranidhana. Tapas means lifestyle changes through which one can remove the toxins. And Swadhyaya is self-inquiry. By doing self-inquiry, one can know about ourselves. And Ishvara Pranidhana means surrendering towards Ishvara. These three are called as Kriya Yoga. And next is Avidya, Asmita, Raga, Dvesha, Abhiniveshaha, Kleshaha. So Patanjali is saying there are 5 kinds of kleshas. Avidya, Asmita, Raga, Dvesha, and Abhinivesha. Avidya means ignorant. Ignorant, and Asmita means we get identified with this body and mind complex. So we think there is no difference between Purusha and me. So that knowledge of Purusha we will not have. That is Asmita. And Raga means the desire, and Dvesha means Dukkham. Abhinivesha is fear. So these are the 5 kleshas. So we can remove the kleshas through Kriya Yoga. And also Patanjali is presenting the Ashtanga Yoga, 8 limbs of yoga. It is also called as Raja Yoga. Those are Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. And Patanjali is giving the explanation for each and every step in Ashtanga Yoga. And the 3 things, that is Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi, is explaining in Vibhuti Pada. And these 3 are called as Samyama. And also Vibhuti Pada talks about the supernatural powers or siddhis that one can attain through Samyama. And Kaivalya Pada is the last chapter which talks about the samskaras or vasanas and different kinds of karma what we have, and also the nature of liberation and how one can get transcend oneself. And he says Kaivalya means the liberation. That is the final stage one can attain. And through which all our gunas and everything will go up. Here I have given only the few sample sutras from Sankhya and Yoga, but there is much more to learn from these texts of philosophies. And now here comes the end of the presentation. Thanks to all for listening to this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Sumanthi. Any questions? Aarthi, do you have any questions to ask? Any clarification? Any comments?
I thought it was a brilliant presentation.
Thank you.
A much detailed, I think, knowledge about Yoga Sutras. I think she's been teaching also. So it evidently shows that. So as of now, no questions as such, but maybe one practical question: how do you probably bring in Yoga Sutras in practical sense? Like, how do you value it in terms of adapting it to the environment or to children, or how do you, handle those kinds of principles in daily life?
First, we have to know the meaning about each and every sutra. And when we go through our life, some of the sutras we will be automatically applying that will match to that particular situation. So when we say that, that gives us the knowledge on how we can take it easily. We take that situation easily and move on. Everyone situations are varying, so when we know about these sutras, we can easily say that. And even we can chant daily, we can chant the sutras. That is one way which we can calm our mind.
True. Yeah, that is correct. Chanting really helps in terms of balancing both body and mind, I guess.
I would also agree with the chanting. I think even before I studied the sutras with the teacher, much before, I think many years before, I had started learning to chant the sutras. In fact, I think one of my teachers had told us many years back now that if there is one thing a yoga practitioner should really study and know, even if it is by heart, it would be the first two chapters, the Samadhi Pada, the Sadhana Pada. If they know, then they are really set. That's a good place to be. Uma, any thoughts, any questions?
Right. Yeah. The more we chant, we realize that's the easiest way, particularly to answer Aarthi's question. How do you get the children to start? Because knowledge shouldn't stop with us. And the most important thing that we do to the Shastras, to the Shabda Jnana, is to pass this on. Okay. So that is the most important thing. How do you do it? It should be a constant thought all the time about whatever you learn. You should know how to, you should prepare how to pass it on in one way or the other. Neighbors, other people's children, whatever it is, whoever you can get, try to get them to listen, chant. Children always like, chanting. Children always like to chant in front of groups. So World Yoga Day, why should it be yoga asanas? Yeah, make them chant Yoga Sutras. Okay. So plan something innovatively and do that. Huge topics, Sumanthi, and you made it quite clearly, succinctly, taking the key points in a very short while. It was quite amazing, actually. And like Aarthi said, which means you have to have a good bird's eye view of both, and very nicely done. I would really like to see you do a comparison of Yoga Sutra and Tirumular's Tirumandiram. Tamil Udadingamma. Okay.
Yeah,
Lumina. So that is something that has dodged me. Okay. The parallel to a peer of Patanjali in the Tamil, in the Dravida Nadu, is Tirumular, and he wrote the Tirumandiram, which is 3,000 verses. Okay, as compared to, and it is exactly the same things. Okay,
yes,
there also Yamaniyama is there, Ashtanga Yoga is there.
That is there.
Huh?
In fact, I remember there is this yoga heritage or Vedic heritage society. Yes, it is somewhere, I think it is in Rishikesh, if I'm not mistaken. And there was a question asked, which is superior? And there that he had said, that head priest and teacher had said that there is no such thing as superiority. When we have assessed both, we have seen that they are equally potent. They have the equal weightage. So, we should actually be proud that it is there in both, instead of saying which one is superior and which one is inferior. So, so I have not studied it, but I have heard of all of these different discourses here and there. So by all means, Sumanthi.
I know, just like how you gave this synopsis, I would really like to hear what your studies have shown you about Yoga Sutra and Tirumandiram. Okay. Yeah.
Definitely,
So
I
we
will
can
go
do that
through.
anytime, let us know if you're teaching or if you're studying or if you find somebody who has already done this.
Tirumandiram, ma'am?
Tirumandiram, yeah, Tirumular Tirumandiram.
Okay, okay. Yeah, sure. I will share.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Well done, Sumanthi. Well done.
Thank you.
And yes, I would echo Uma's views on your presentation. And then I think Uma has given you something to look forward to going ahead also. Okay. Aarthi, your turn. And let us know what your, I've put you on the spotlight now. So what is your topic? Actually, wait, I wanted to, before I go to you, I want to ask Sumanthi.
Yes.
Sumanthi, why did you choose this topic?
Sankhya and Yoga. I like that topic, and also when I come to this learning yoga, first thing I thought was Yoga Sutras only is taught by. I said no, 8th sense yoga. They were teaching. I was actually interested in learning Bhagavad Gita, but that was so vast. And they said in Yoga Sutra you can get everything. So he only taught all the concepts, core concepts are. So I thought I can learn this, and then he only taught the Sankhya, the comparison, everything. So that interested.
Have you studied the Bhagavad Gita? Since
Bhagavad
that
Gita, no, only few slokas, but
okay. So there is something that my Vedanta teacher had told me some at least 2 years back. I forget the exact words, but there is a big correlation between the Yoga Sutras and the Bhagavad Gita. Okay, the Bhagavad Gita still has the essence of a story. So there is this I need to actually come back to you. I need to find that exact thing that my teacher had said, and I will share. But when you do get to learning the Bhagavad Gita, right, and studying it, I think you should actually take that opportunity to see what is that connection. Because if your teacher has told you that you will find the answers in Yoga Sutras, you'll see that if we are using the Bhagavad Gita as the philosophy for all of humanity, and Patanjali is also a resource for the same thing when it comes to the psychology of it, then what is that connection? There is something. And I think when you unearth that, because telling it to you now, if you haven't studied the Bhagavad Gita, will be like, okay, then you can just use that. But then when you actually study it and it unravels for you, then I think it's a completely different experience altogether.
yeah, sure.
All right.
I will give a focus on this Bhagavad Gita, Tirumandiram.
Yeah. They are all, extremely sacred texts and good texts for anyone to be actually developing any further, not only interest, it's for your own evolution also.
Yeah.
So anyway, well done. Okay, Aarthi, you are on the hot seat now. What is your topic?
Okay, I'll be talking very briefly about Upanishads, what all I could gather from this program, from the richness shared by Uma, her experience, her knowledge, and probably a little bit of my understanding and a little bit of research involved in it. So I won't be elaborating on any specific Upanishads as such, but generally I picked up this topic because whenever I used to hear about Bhagavad Gita, Yoga Sutra, Puranas, I found that, okay, these are some stories, some myths and things like that, but I wasn't very clear about what Upanishads actually contained and what did it comprise of. I mean, I wanted to really understand for a very long time. Since the time, I think a few years after my 300 hours itself, I wanted to understand, but probably as Uma was saying, right, the right opportunity or, the right kind of time has to come when you actually pursue these studies. And I think this was one of the platforms where I thought it was a beautiful opportunity for me to, find out the truth about Upanishads and what does it mean to me as such. So very briefly, why this study I picked it up is basically I thought that the Indian literature speaks of value systems. And value systems generally are not taught as such, but they are more or less internalized and experienced in their behavior. And through different ways, either through your study or through your practice or any other forms of probably deeds or actions. So in Indian tradition, I think people learn the right way of living. And the way of living means the way they do their duties, the way they actually build on their dharmas, and the way they go along with their purusharthas, right? So in that sense, I thought that we as people from a culture which is very rich and vast, we give importance to each and every life in the universe. And we actually, this life creation, or what we call the prana, right? So it manifests in different ways. But probably the core value of Indian culture and tradition is to keep those manifestation in the purest form by not doing bad deeds, or not talking ill about them, or protecting them, at the very outset. So the history of Upanishads, I think, dates back to almost 5,000 years back, with most of the schools, the philosophical schools, talking about being spiritual in nature. And we have the Gitas, we have the Puranas, Upanishads, all the actual literature of our country, which spoke about myths, stories, hymns, and all messages related to ethics and values. So when we are talking about certain questions which come to us, right? What is the reality of life, or where do you seek this truth about probably who is God, where is God, how is he? Is there a form, and things like that? So these are something questions more, I think, based on reflections, based on experience, rather than more on a logical format. So there are different kinds of knowledge, systems of knowledge. I feel it is classified as higher and lower knowledge. And the higher knowledge, of course, we are talking about there are two things in knowledge itself, right? The vidya, the paravidya and aparavidya. So, of course, to reach the paravidya, we need to go through the aparavidya, because obviously the path is not very simple, and you need to actually really probably feel that you belong to the space, and you need to experience certain things in order to reach that kind of a transcendence level. And the whole basis of Upanishads is that how do we understand ourselves and maybe beyond us also. So we have these two things of Shruti and Smriti, right? Shruti is the Vedic form and the Smriti is the post-Vedic form, which are the subtlest forms of the literature that we have. So coming to the introduction of Upanishads. So in Upanishads, we are talking about, it is a culmination of Vedic teachings in terms of knowing what is the truth, or people who are seekers of truth. So in the text of Vedas, which talks about different kinds of knowledge, either through a stored by oral or written traditions, and passed on to to disciples by a guru through a discourse, in a very closed environment, which could be a very sacred environment. It is said that these things are not passed on to any common man, but it has to be revered with sanctity, and that's why so seeking that truth is not very easy. And this is divided into Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda, which is further divided into Samhitas, Brahmanas, and Aranyakas, where you have the Upanishads as a part of the knowledge of the Vedas, and the other two as part of the Karma Kanda. Now, the word Upanishad, when you break it down, it is Upa, Ni, and Shar. So Upa means very close or near, to be close, and Sad means to loosen. To loosen means to destroy or to break the shackles. So basically, Upanishads, it talks about the Brahma Vidya, which is the Brahma's knowledge, which we achieve, through passing through the stages of avidya or ignorance, which has been destroyed. And I think Shankaracharya defined it as to be the knowledge of God. And whatever derivations we receive in terms of, breaking these shackles and trying to see the real truth, or which comes out in the form of realization. So that is something we all aspire for at the end of the day. Now, the classification of these Vedas are classified broadly into 4 categories: Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Samaveda, and Atharva Veda. So the Rig Veda has 2 Upanishads, which is Aitareya and Kaushitaki. Yajur Veda has Taittiriya, Katha, Shvetashvatara, Brihadaranya, and Isha. Samaveda has Keno and Chandogya Upanishad, and Atharva Veda has Mandukya, Mundaka, and Prashna Upanishad.
Sama Veda. I don't know if it is the internet jumping, but it's not Sama, yeah? Sama Veda.
Samaveda.
Akara, yeah.
Samaveda. So when you are going to decode all these Upanishads, what is one bottom line that you're trying to achieve is to seek the highest truth. That is, there is only one reality, which is probably the absolute consciousness, right? Which we call Brahman, or the God, or the Atman. Now, if you see human beings, they are essentially in the highest realm of reality. But their true nature is most of the time not revealed, because obviously they are probably having this shield or this cloud with them called the Maya, and that is definitely identified through the body and mind complexes which we have. And if we are able to overcome those kinds of obstacles, then obviously we can see a lot of clarity in reaching to the highest reality. Now, Upanishads are just a vehicle of spiritual disclose or spiritual illumination, which we see, rather than just a reflection of the text itself, right? Of the kind of experiences that the rishis has given us. So when we are trying to see how does it relate to our life, we can actually verify it if we don't look at it from a logical reasoning, but we look at it from a personal experience. So if you can put yourself into that particular category, then obviously you can realize the Brahma Vidya, which is the ultimate pursuit of wisdom. Now, some of the common examples that I just picked up from 1 or 2 Upanishads, which can relate to this nature of what I just explained, is in Chandogya Upanishad, we talk about sacrifices, right? So everywhere people want to sacrifice certain things to God. But when everything is there in God, what is that we are trying to offer him? Is the question, right? So that is being interpreted in Chandogya Upanishad, which says that all these are self-defeating, because we say that all or whatever possessions we have is not ours. So why do you sacrifice it at all? Right? Similarly, in Brihadaranya Upanishad, we say that there is a sacrifice of a horse, which is interpreted as a meditative act. And there he goes and offers the universe about that he's surrendering that, but actually speaking, and tries to attain a little bit of, I think, spiritual, what you can say, spiritual autonomy. But I think he's not very successful, because when you sacrifice anything, we are doing injustice for that particular element. And here we mean to say that there is non-injury in the highest self in any of these scriptures or literature, right? So that I think so that also talks about that we don't have anything in ourselves that we have to offer, but God is probably present everywhere within us. We just have to realize and, live with it so that we can, feel that essence of being more powerful within us and see the real truth within us. Now, when we talk about Upanishad, there are a couple of common names that comes in all these texts, which is Brahman, which is also called as Atma or Atman, Ishvara, Jagat, and Jiva. So Brahman is the whole gamut of the universe, which we are all living with. So it is the totality. It is forever expanding, and there is no boundaries towards it. But when you go subtle towards the inside of the Brahman, we go to the subtle aspects of Jiva, which is probably made up of smaller atoms and molecules. And that actually, ends up in a space of finding, a little more on the macro and the micro level, where we see the world beyond us. And that's where we actually attribute the principles of Ishvara also. Now, when you're talking about Brahman, obviously we are talking about a formless, timeless, faceless kind of a person, where you don't know whether there exists anybody called Brahman. So there are a couple of things that we generally ask in scriptures like this. What happens to the soul after death, or who is responsible for our deeds, the karmas that we do during our lifetime? Or does God really exist? Is there a form in the God? Or who has created this God? So through all these questions, the answer to it is, although life is far and near for all of us, the forms of life is within us, the Jivatma. And that is the pure consciousness that we need to actually understand, because every form has some kind of a prana in it. And obviously that prana will give you some kind of a realization to understand through the vidya, which is your knowledge. So if you are trying to seek those kinds of heights in your lifetime, then obviously you need to go through a process of breaking down a little bit of negativism in yourself, which would be your kama, krodha, moksha, and artha. So these are things which you need to actually find truth within yourself, so as to match the life processes that you are going through in terms of the universe, in terms of attaining that Ishvara, and obviously, the Jiva, which is helping you to move towards the Brahman, is always a part of the universe itself. Now, coming to the last part of this presentation is we are going to talk about Upanishads as a very spiritual message or a thought that we all think about. But the truth behind this is nothing but if we can realize the knowledge we have and try and exponentially use that knowledge, then obviously there is a lot of truth in our own self in terms of reflecting what we feel, what we believe in. The insights or the experience will come all the more alive. And this is what is the reality, because there's a lot of self-inquiry being done in all these Upanishads. And I think so the Brahma Vidya can only be achieved if we try to understand ourselves and gain the synthesis of all the knowledge that is being presented in this literature. Thank you. That's Dhanyavad.
Thank you, Aarthi. And so I know that, you've all studied the overview of the Upanishads and all. I have a question, actually. Uma is here. So Uma, considering this is right up your alley of what we've just, what you've covered in scriptures and texts, your thoughts and comments or question, and then I will ask mine.
Yeah, so I basically sent my message because I have a meeting at 12:15. I'm just 2 minutes late. I'm just going to log in and stay on mute there. Sorry about this. It's a sudden meeting that was asked for in my office. But yeah, I was there for the whole thing. And what I commented was, it's great because this is a summary of what we did in class also. I love the way that you're now so casually and confidently using dharma and purusharthas and stuff like that. You're on the right track. You're on the right track. And, you already know the path of truth is the more important thing than path of knowledge, path of information. You know all the differences now, and you can't go you can't fall off the track and you can't go wrong. Okay, so continue. And it is very interesting. It is a beautiful world where you'll be associated with the best of the best people. And again, it's a small world. It is a small world. Every time I meet somebody, I already know 10 other people who that person is connected to. This is not on Facebook. This is again with satsanga, with people on the same path. Things that you would never realize that is there or has been there for so long. All of that will reveal itself, and it is very easy again, but it's for the true seeker, really. So it's great that you have discovered this path, and I'm happy to have been this whole thing was started by Luvina. She kept following, plaguing, said yes, let's do something about it, and then we had this opportunity where we learn and we discover also, and it so brings us so much happiness to bring people onto the same path that we are on. It's wonderful. It's wonderful for us and wonderful for our scriptures, our knowledge, so that it doesn't go inexperienced. And like I always said with the Sumanthi also, now we need to make sure that we do the right thing. It has to be heard. Shruti has to be heard. Any which way, whether it is chanting, whether it is just reading the Upanishads, whatever it is, Shruti has to be revealed. Shruti has to be heard. That's why it is there. Okay, so lots more to do, Aarthi, but you're on the right track. It's a whole new world. So carry on. Congratulations. Yeah, Luvina.
Yes, I know. It is. I mean, I was just listening when I was listening to Aarthi's presentation. Also, I was thinking. I said, so far we study with our teachers, and we hear, we share. When you were speaking about the concepts, I said, now we've actually progressed, and we're actually talking about Jagat and Jiva and all the Vedantic terms. I said, here, that is, it just made me sit back and open my eyes. I said, okay, so we have actually touched upon this with our with whoever we have reached out to. So well done. My question, however, and this has been an interesting question because I've thought of this ever since I studied the gist of the Upanishads, I think easily about 14 years back. Okay, gist of the Upanishads. So yeah, 14 years back. Riya was about 14 or 13 years, somewhere roughly around that. Riya was about 2.5 years old. Now you've studied the gist with Uma. Which is your most resonant Upanishad? Which one is the one that fascinated you the most?
I think the first Upanishad she took. Katha Upanishad was the one which fascinated because it was all that pure stories which actually, presented it so well that we realize it, and it doesn't make much difference for us to know that it can be, taken into reality also, because it's so simple.
Yeah.
Not to say that the others were complex, but I thought that resonated with me much more than the other Upanishads.
Yeah, I think Katha Upanishad remains my favorite as well, simply because you see, in the tradition itself reveals a lot of the scriptures to us in story format, because and Vedanta itself has such a huge portion of it that we will never be able to experience, because it cannot be experienced. So there was one thing that you said, what is this thing called Brahman? Who is Brahman? And I said, you can't, because there is no what or a who. That is, then you personify Brahman, which cannot be personified. So we will never, that's why we never can tell, in the present that I am experiencing Brahman, because that negates itself. I am itself is Brahman and you cannot experience yourself. So it's not a thing, it just is. Okay. But in that form, for us to understand those levels, storytelling allows us to experience in a way all of those concepts through the senses that we have, including our imagination. And that's why, as a child, as Nachiketa speaks, we actually sense, we can experience and explore in a way that we cannot. And that's why storytelling has always been a traditional form of bringing all of these concepts to us. Why we understand, why it makes a little bit more sense, because you suddenly, when you're listening to a story, you become Nachiketa yourself. You become that because a child's imagination is vast. An adult's imagination goes through the filter, we called it the conscious filter, which filters, then we logic and, we use our rationale and our logic and we say, okay, how is this it? But a child becomes that. So that filter isn't there. And that is one of the processes that is one of the reasons why in any of our studies, in any tradition, we, especially in our culture, are told to become childlike, not childish, childlike, because you can, when you become childlike, you can explore and you can experience any facet of learning through childlike curiosity, childlike imagination, childlike faith, childlike bhakti, childlike shraddha. There is none of these aspects that are purer than that of how children absorb and assimilate. So when Uma says the Shruti needs to be heard and children learn, and we've all got children, and we know that my children know almost all the mantras and all the suktas and all that I teach, because I've never taught them a single day. Never. They always have walked around, roaming around, and they can hear. Sometimes they hear it just as the tune, because there is a particular, the tune of it, the different swaras, the swaras resonate, the swaras resonate. In fact, there are times when there are students and when I'm correcting a student, the children also will suddenly, they pick their ears up because they can hear the what is incorrect, they don't hear, but they learn it by themselves. So that kind of, so when the Shruti, when the scriptures are actually chanted, when the Yoga Sutras are chanted, when you listen to it, when you keep listening to it, it reharmonizes and recalibrates your being in a level. It brings you a tiny fraction of Chitta Shuddhi, a fraction, which sets the foundation, for you to actually learn. That's why we all learn from listening first. That's why even in the tradition, you listen first. That's why in your classrooms also, you're listening first. When you listen with that purity, then it becomes, I'm not really sure as to why Uma chose Kathopanishad first, but
it is the first one that Shankara wrote the Bhashya for. And that is where he has detailed, in a detailed way, he has explained what is the meaning of Upanishad with Upanishad, all that. And that's what my teacher taught me first. It's fun, it is very simple, and everything you want to know about Brahman is there in that. And the rest of the Upanishads, I basically told them, it was really fast. We covered it over 2-3 days, and I told them each Upanishad is on the same format. If you look at it, what is the important thing about Brahman that you're getting out of this? If one is saying that it is Anadi and it is it's got no end and no beginning and no mrityu, no old aging. And if another one says that how you reach Brahman is through Om and stuff like that. So we are talking about the same Brahman, but the different who, what, why, when, how, where, and all that stuff through the other Upanishads. So that's how I started Kathopanishad. Usually, traditionally, it's also done. In MA also, we had Kathopanishad as I think the first one. So I continued that's all.
The tradition. Yeah. It's just there, I mean, when you just take one step back from being inside the teaching, when you take one step back, like how Sumanthi presented her presentation as well, when you take one step back for that meta view, then you can see that all the scriptures, once you've studied them, are actually laid out very complementary with each other. They actually help you understand deeper, So well done, Aarthi, and thank you. It was not it was not as small and light as you started off by saying it was. It was well done with good depth. Sumanthi, any thoughts, any comments?
Overall, she has gathered from whatever mom has given from starting that split up of Upanishad and that Purusharthas, everything. So she recollected everything. It's a good start, and also that is good to listen. She has given it well. That's what I can say. And also a thought on making forward to go to the children, no? So that we can consider and we can take on steps. How we can, I doubt these are a very high level, but how we can teach these things to kids, children.
Yes, they learn just from being. And then when they need to, then they'll ask questions and then they start becoming seekers. First, they just need to listen. They just need to be familiar that I know this is there. This is always spoken about. I've heard this. I'm very familiar with it. So what is this that I'm familiar of? That curiosity is for every individual in their own journey. That cannot be forced upon. I cannot force you to ask a question unless you have that question. I can only invite you to it, make you familiar with it, for you to appreciate and respect it enough to ask, I want to know you more. And when you ask, automatically the teachers and all appear. Automatically the learning opens up to you. It's all that. And unless a person has the karma to and the punyam to actually receive that, they will not. So you cannot force your share of the punyam on your children. It will come when they have to only. Okay.
I just wanted to mention this about chanting and how probably the everyday chant can help a lot in transformation of self, and as well as in terms of memory, because I think as we age we tend to lose that kind of real power on the memory, because everybody has their own ways of strengthening the memory power. But I think through chanting, I think it's been a wonderful experience, few months at least for me, that it has helped me to keep track of small things, and that way I think so it's acted brilliantly, which I must say is an experiential thing for me to say that. And even when recently I'm also learning a little bit of dance, and there everything is being taught through memory. They don't give you a script, they don't give you a video, nothing. And it becomes so difficult because we are all aged above 40, right? So it's difficult to gather the steps and all, and that's where I find memory so much important. And yes, so that's the an effort for me to actually improve my memory also.
No, it's good. Chanting does help with the memory as well, because it, like I said, it recalibrates everything. It helps with building the neural connections. All of these things are actually scientifically proven. So anyway, now that we've done, I will be sending you a message by this evening or tomorrow, and we will agree on 2 days a week. Okay, and a time where I will finish up I will continue progressing with both of you side by side. We will take a 40-minute session for finishing Medha Suktam up to how many sessions I will teach you. Okay, and then we can cover and close that one as well. All right. And you will get the final closure of Swarūpa also via email from both of us. And I wish you all the best and thank you. Yes, Suma?
I have graded their papers, so I'd like to just spend about 10-15 minutes. I don't know if you're meeting all of them tomorrow, then we can do that tomorrow.
I'm not. I will send them a WhatsApp. I will make you the host now in that case, Uma, because I will need to go. Okay.
No, I can't talk to them now also,
Okay, fine. Then you can speak with them. Then you can speak to them about their graded papers later.
Tomorrow
okay?
Tomorrow we
yeah,
can
if possible tomorrow. Yeah, if possible tomorrow. No, when are you meeting, during that time? Just before that.
Okay, fine. All right. Yeah. Then I will, once I confirm with them the timing, then I will let you know so you can meet up then. Okay.
Sure, sure. Just 5,
All
10
right.
minutes. That's it. Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
Sounds nice. Will do.
Bye.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Sumanthi and Aarthi, for your time and your effort. It was very well received, and I think I must say that it was very well presented. Okay. Thank you very much for your
Thank
effort.
you.
Thank you, Uma, for being there. I think you can also run. I also have to go, and I will send you a message soon. Okay, both of you, so that we can confirm the time. All right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.